Welcome to the deep dive. Our goal here is pretty simple, really. We take some of the most rigorous research out there, the dense articles and the complex theories, and we try to pull out the practical knowledge that you can use to be sharper, faster, and just more effective.
And today we're really tearing down one of the big ones.
We're looking at the foundational tenet of modern productivity culture, the morning routine.
It really is the sacred cow of achievement, isn't it? I mean, we are constantly bombarded with stories of these super successful people who wake up at the crack of dawn to optimize every single minute.
Absolutely. The routine of the achiever is legendary,
hmm
and it crosses time, it crosses profession.
The sources we looked at start right there, laying out this history.
Yeah, think about Winston Churchill. He wasn't exactly an early bird. He woke up around 7:30 a.m., but his morning was this fortress of consistency.
Right. It was breakfast, reading all the papers, dictating memos.
And he did it all from bed. That predictable sequence, that was his energy foundation for the day.
Or you can jump forward to, the modern era, and you see Jennifer Aniston starting her day at 4:30 a.m.
4:30.
with hot water and lemon, then meditation, then structured exercise. It's a very different set of activities than Churchill's, but the consistency is the same.
It's the same core idea. And my personal favorite, I have to say, is Ludwig von Beethoven.
Ah, the coffee beans.
Exactly 60 beans. The sources tell us he started his routine at 6 a.m. by meticulously brewing his coffee and making sure there were exactly 60 beans in the pot every single day.
So whether you're a composer, politician, and actor, the message is crystal clear. A predictable morning routine is the bedrock of a productive day.
And this isn't some niche belief, right?
None at all.
Yeah.
A survey from a few years back suggested that something like 82% of people stick to some form of morning routine. The consensus is just overwhelming.
And here's the paradox that organizational science found. For decades, academic research was focused only on the benefits of forming routines.
Right. It was treated as this static characteristic.
It was a simple question. Do you have a routine or don't you? Scholars studied the benefits of just having one.
Exactly. They were approaching it as what they call a between-person question. But life isn't static.
Not at all. We all know morning chaos is a real thing.
The traffic snarls, a toddler gets sick, the plumbing springs a leak.
Or you get that unexpected text from your boss at 6 in the morning that just shatters your whole planned sequence.
And that's the crucial question the original research missed.
Which is the within-person question. What are the consequences that happen to you specifically on the days when your predictable sequence gets broken?
It shifts the entire conversation. It goes from the abstract benefits of structure to the immediate measurable costs of chaos.
And that right there is the mission of this deep dive. We are jumping into some really cutting-edge research that uses this sophisticated theoretical lens.
Cognitive energetics theory, or CET.
Right, CET. To explain the direct mechanisms that linked that morning disruption to a measurable drop in your daily work performance.
And we're not just looking at one study. We examined 3 distinct, very rigorous daily experience sampling studies to see exactly how that stumble in the morning ripples through your entire day.
Okay, let's unpack this. We're going to go beyond the anecdotes and into the brain's energy budget. And we'll start by establishing the engine room, which is how routines actually save us energy in the first place.
Let's do it.
So let's start with some definitions, because I think we often confuse things like routines and habits.
Yeah.
How does this research define a true routine?
Okay, so they define a routine as a set of practiced, consistent behaviors that happen in generally the same way and in the same order.
The sequence is critical.
The sequence is absolutely critical, and over time, because you're performing these actions repeatedly in the same context, the activities become automated.
And that automation is the efficiency hack, isn't it? It's like turning a complex software program into dedicated, fast hardware.
That is a perfect analogy. The neurological benefit of automation is just immense. Our brains, they operate on a finite, limited energy budget. Any behavior that requires conscious planning or decision-making or just enacting it, that burns energy. So when behavior is automated, brushing your teeth, driving your usual commute, pouring coffee, it completely eliminates the need for that energy expenditure.
You don't have to decide to put on your left shoe first or your right shoe.
Yeah.
You just do it. You've offloaded that whole process.
Precisely. And this conserves what the research calls vital energy for your higher order, non-routinized goals.
The hard stuff.
The hard stuff. The complex projects, the difficult negotiations, the creative problem-solving sessions, the work tasks that are unique every single day.
So focused thought and planning, those are the most energy-intensive things we do.
They are. And routines essentially create these cognitive toll roads that let you bypass the payment requirement. They leave your energy budget intact for the tough stuff later on.
This concept of energy conservation is really where cognitive energetics theory, CET, comes in. It's the lens for this entire disruption process.
It is. CET is so powerful because it views energy as the single primary driver of goal attainment. They conceptualize this energy as a driving force.
Okay.
But crucially, CET differentiates between two distinct energy states. It gives us this essential duality.
So walk us through the two types of energy. Maybe
Okay.
we could use a clear metaphor here.
Sure. Think of your brain and body as a high-performance electric vehicle. The first type of energy is the potential driving force.
Okay.
This is the energy an individual has available for pursuing their goals. It's your fully charged battery pack when you wake up in the morning. It's your raw capacity.
Got it. The maximum juice I have available. And that's the resource pool that routines protect.
Exactly. Now, the second type is the effective driving force.
Imagine.
This is the actual goal-directed expenditure of that energy. It's in the moment you floor the accelerator pedal and apply that battery power to move toward your destination, your work goal.
Okay, so if routines protect the potential driving force, how does a disruption specifically drain that battery before I even plug it into my work goals?
The disruption mechanism is it's immediate and it's brutal. Imagine your automated 7:45 a.m. commute is now blocked by a massive accident.
Okay.
Or you suddenly have to manage some unexpected logistical thing at home. The automated process is instantly broken. You can't proceed on autopilot anymore.
That familiar path is gone, and now I have to actively navigate the chaos. I have to think.
You have to think. Exactly. What was once seamless now triggers this requirement for conscious attention, planning, executive function. You have to evaluate alternatives, decide on a new sequence of actions, and cope with the stress of the unfamiliar.
And all that takes energy.
It takes energy that was supposed to be conserved and available, your potential driving force. It's now being diverted.
So it's being used for a lower order goal, like getting socks on the kid, finding a new route, calming yourself down, instead of the higher order work goals.
Precisely. You are spending your cognitive resources on dealing with the chaos of your morning rather than reserving them for, say, the complexity of the afternoon's budget meeting.
The net effect, then, is a significant reduction in available energy before the workday has even properly started.
You're running on a diminished charge when you arrive at your desk. And this lost energy, it doesn't just feel like a bad start. The research shows it manifests in two very specific ways.
Okay, and this research is so compelling because it uses this CET framework to show that this loss of available energy, this reduction in the potential driving force, it doesn't just disappear.
No, it shows up.
It shows up in both cognitive and affective indicators. And I want to stress for you listening that the study sees us as having a single pool of energy, but the drain shows up on these two different fronts.
That's right. Let's look at the cognitive side first. Pathway A is depletion.
Most of us understand depletion. We often link it to things like ego depletion or just a general lack of willpower.
And that's essentially how the research defines it. Depletion is the lack of energy necessary for self-control. It is a largely cognitive construct.
So because routines minimize the attention required for these repetitive activities, they conserve that capacity.
Right. But when the routine breaks, the brain is suddenly forced to allocate attention to coping and problem solving, and that just sucks up that cognitive capacity.
That increased demand then diminishes the cognitive energy you have available for later work tasks.
And that leads directly to higher daily depletion. When the researchers tested this across their daily studies, they found that morning routine disruption was powerfully and positively associated with daily depletion.
So a chaotic morning makes you reliably more cognitively spent for the rest of the day.
The link was extremely robust. It confirmed the hypothesis without question across all the studies.
That makes perfect sense on a cognitive level. But pathway B reduced calmness, that's the more subtle one, the effective indicator. When I'm rushing and stressed, I might feel frantic, but why does the research focus on the loss of calmness?
That's a really crucial question. So calmness is defined here as a deactivated form of positive affect.
Deactivated.
Yeah, think of it as a low-intensity, low-demand positive state, a feeling of being settled, comfortable, ready. Routines are highly predictable, they're certain, and they're low effort. They are the perfect environment for calmness to flourish.
It's the feeling of safety and certainty that the routine provides.
Exactly. When the routine is intact, you feel composed. And this affective state is linked to a higher willingness to invest energy in your goals later because your system is settled.
But disruption breaks that certainty.
It breaks it. The situation is no longer low effort or certain,
So instead of that settled readiness, I feel that momentary chaos, that unsettling jolt of activation.
which shifts you away from calmness. The loss of that settled, deactivated positive state effectively limits the maximal amount of available energy, your potential driving force that you can bring to work.
And the findings here were also really strong.
Oh, they were massive. Routine disruption was consistently and negatively correlated with daily calmness across all the studies. The researchers concluded the morning disruption doesn't just make you tired, it fundamentally breaks your sense of peaceful readiness. It limits your energetic ceiling.
So it's a dual energetic assault. The cognitive drain, depletion, prevents you from focusing, and the affective drain, reduced calmness, prevents you from feeling ready and settled enough to truly engage.
Your overall energetic availability is just compromised on two deep fronts.
Now, let's dig into the details and the complexity of routine strength. Because study one is this fantastic, tightly controlled experiment that looked at a single common element: drinking caffeinated coffee.
Yeah, this specific focus allowed the researchers to test the disruption effect conditionally. They weren't just asking, did you drink coffee today? They were asking, did you break a routine that you typically rely on? And they measured routine strength by tracking how consistently an employee drank coffee over the whole study period.
That's so important. If I rarely drink coffee, missing it is just a normal Tuesday. But if I drink it 6 days a week, missing it feels like an energetic catastrophe.
Precisely. And the core finding here, which is visualized beautifully in the original figures, it shows just how protective a strong routine is and how costly it is when it breaks.
So let's start with depletion. What happened to the cognitive energy budget when a strong coffee routine was broken?
For individuals who had a strong coffee routine, missing that coffee was powerfully associated with higher cognitive depletion. It cost them measurable energy. They spent time and effort just coping with the unexpected deprivation.
And for those who had a weak routine, the occasional coffee drinkers.
For them, missing coffee had essentially zero effect. It was non-significant.
Wow.
They didn't have an automated process to break, so there was no cognitive toll required to manage the absence of the activity.
This really confirms the mechanism. It's not the coffee itself. It's the disruption of the automated sequence that burns the energy.
That's the key. The stronger you build the routine, the harder you fall when it breaks.
And we saw a parallel finding with calmness, right?
We did. For those with a strong routine, that morning coffee deprivation led to a significant and measurable drop in calmness. They lost that feeling of settled readiness.
And for the weak routine drinkers.
The effect was negligible. They didn't have that expectation of certainty to begin with, so its absence didn't reduce their effective preparedness.
This leads to the most fascinating, kind of counterintuitive finding, which was noted in the supplementary data. This is the aha moment for anyone listening who might be thinking, well, I should just avoid having any routine so I can't be disrupted.
That's the question, isn't it? Is the safest bet to simply live chaotically? The research compared two groups: someone who typically lives chaotically, so a non-disrupted weak routine, versus someone who usually lives structured but stumbled today, a disrupted strong routine.
And what was the difference in their measured energy?
The initial data showed that the energetic difference between those two states, the chaotic baseline and the one-time stumble, was not statistically significant.
For either depletion or calmness?
For either one.
Wow. So avoiding a routine entirely offers virtually no energetic protection compared to the bad days of a structured person.
That's the provisional conclusion, yeah. The benefit of forming a routine and maintaining it is the baseline ideal because you benefit from energy preservation every single day you stick to it.
Wow.
If you avoid routines, you miss out on that energy gain, and you land in a state that's statistically similar to the person who just had a catastrophic morning disruption. You gain no specific advantage by remaining unstructured.
That's a critical point.
Yeah.
It suggests the upside of structure really outweighs the risk of the occasional collapse. Now, as you mentioned, study one could have been a little bit limited by the idea of caffeine withdrawal. How did the other studies, 2A and 2B, broaden this framework?
They needed to prove that the effect generalized beyond a psychoactive substance like caffeine. So study 2A used a comprehensive checklist.
Right.
It broadened the scope to 12 key morning elements: waking up time, breakfast, personal hygiene, the commute, even things like checking email. Participants reported how many of those unfolded as expected.
So breaking any part of that really complex sequence contributed to the overall disruption score?
Exactly. And then study 2B went even wider. It used a general, subjective 4-item scale, asking participants simply if their morning felt disrupted, out of sequence, or inconsistent.
And the power of these studies is in their consistency.
Absolutely. The energy-depleting and calmness-reducing effects were confirmed across all 3 methodologies: the narrow coffee study, the checklist, and the general scale.
So this validates the core theory completely. It's not about the coffee, it's about breaking the cognitive autopilot, regardless of what activity was automated.
That's the bottom line.
Now we get to the final critical pivot in the CET framework. We've established that routine disruption immediately reduces the potential driving force. You have less available energy. Now we track where that loss shows up in the actual workday,
Right, we shift to the effective driving force.
which in this research is measured as work engagement.
Correct. Work engagement, based on the theories of organizational psychology, is defined as the actual investment of a person's preferred self into their task behaviors.
So it's cognitive presence, emotional presence, physical presence.
It is quite literally the actual expenditure of your available energy on your work goals.
And engagement requires enormous amounts of self-control and cognitive effort to maintain focus, especially to shut out distractions. So if my potential energy is low, my effective energy has to suffer.
That is precisely what the hypotheses confirmed across all 3 studies. First, the link between depletion and engagement was clear and consistent.
So more depletion, less engagement.
Exactly. When you are cognitively drained from dealing with morning chaos, you are significantly less able to focus, concentrate, and fully engage with your complex work tasks. This finding was confirmed with extreme strength.
And the calmness factor works in tandem with that.
It does. The research confirmed that calmness positively predicts engagement. Employees who maintained that low-intensity, low-demand positive state, that feeling of peaceful readiness, were reliably more capable of investing their energy fully into their work.
So that settled state prepares you to be present and focused.
That's it. So we have this full chain reaction, from chaos to energy loss to reduced engagement.
But the ultimate goal of the CET framework is goal attainment. So what does this reduced engagement mean for actual output?
Well, CET predicts that if the effective driving force, which is engagement, is low, then goal attainment will be low.
It makes sense.
Engagement is the motivational effort you invest. When you're highly engaged, you're making meaningful, sustained progress toward your objectives. When you're not engaged, those goals stall.
And the data supports this critical final link, right? It confirms that engagement directly predicts progress.
Yes, the link between work engagement and daily work goal progress was confirmed with enormous strength across every single study. Employees who reported high engagement also reported significantly, massively higher progress toward their daily goals.
So the difference in progress between an engaged day and a disengaged day, which follows that morning disruption, is substantial.
It's huge. And this brings us to the confirmation of the ultimate chain reaction, the full indirect effect.
Tell us what the researchers concluded about that.
The conclusion confirms hypothesis 6. Morning routine disruption has a negative indirect effect on work goal progress through both energetic pathways. This is the smoking gun.
So it's not just that the disruption causes depletion, and then depletion causes low engagement. The whole system is connected.
The whole system. Whether the disruption causes you to feel cognitively spent, the depletion path, or effectively unsettled, the calmness path, both routes independently and simultaneously undermine your ability to engage.
And that, in turn, hinders your goal progress later that afternoon.
Absolutely. The seemingly minor chaos of missing your usual breakfast or having a stressful commute is not just a fleeting annoyance. It sets off a scientifically confirmed negative sequence that compromises your available energy, reduces your ability to focus, and ultimately hinders the progress you make on the tasks that actually matter.
The disruption truly does ripple throughout the rest of the workday.
It really does.
That's a powerful conclusion, but it leads to a skeptical question that I imagine the researchers faced from reviewers.
They did.
We focused heavily on the loss of calmness, that deactivated positive state. But when someone is dealing with a disrupted morning, traffic, spilled coffee, a missed alarm, doesn't that make them feel frantic, anxious, or nervous? Why isn't tension the real mechanism here?
That's an excellent listener-driven critique, and the researchers anticipated it. They performed what's called a post hoc analysis on tension.
Okay.
And tension is defined as high activation negative affect, that nervous, distressed, or frantic feeling. Reviewers argued that tension might more directly reflect the actual energy required to cope with the disruption and that struggle.
So if the disruption forces me to burn energy quickly, that high activation negative state tension, that should be the mechanism that predicts poor performance. So did the data support the link from disruption to tension?
The findings were mixed, which is fascinating in itself. In the tightly focused Study 1, the coffee disruption study, the researchers found no measurable increase in tension from missing the coffee.
So no nervous energy from missing the morning caffeine.
Correct, but when they broadened the scope in studies 2A and 2B to include the full spectrum of morning chaos, the link was supported.
Ah, okay.
Routine disruption did, in fact, significantly and positively influence tension. The consensus leans toward accepting that morning chaos does increase tension. When your routine is broken, you feel more frantic and nervous.
Okay, so disruption increases tension. But here's the crucial test for the theory. Does that tension then reduce my ability to engage with my work tasks? Does it diminish the effective driving force?
And this is where the tension mechanism breaks down in this specific model. The link from tension to work engagement was never significant
In any of the studies?
in any of the studies across any of the methodologies. The high activation negative state simply did not function as a reliable predictor for how much cognitive or emotional effort employees put into their work.
That is a key finding. So the morning disruption makes me feel nervous, but that nervousness doesn't seem to be the mechanism that actively prevents me from focusing on my spreadsheet later in the day?
Right. The culprits remain cognitive depletion and the reduction in settled calmness.
So tension, as a high activation state, it just doesn't fit neatly into the CET model as a predictor of work engagement.
It doesn't. It doesn't drain the resource pool in a way that prevents focus. This suggests that while depletion and reduced calmness reflect the loss of resources required for sustained attention, tension might link to a whole different set of negative outcomes.
Like avoidance or something.
That's the implication for future theory. Tension, as that highly activated negative state, may link instead to what they call withdrawal behaviors, taking long breaks, mentally checking out,
Or even worse.
or even counterproductive workplace behaviors actions taken to distance oneself from the high-pressure, energetically taxing elements of the job. But for explaining why your goals stall and your engagement drops, calmness and depletion are the primary drivers.
That distinction provides a lot of clarity for organizations trying to measure employee well-being. Knowing the difference between what causes burnout versus what causes frustration is huge.
It is, and the robustness of these findings gives us clear, actionable direction. The central finding is that maintaining routines is critical for energetic resources, and because of that, for performance and goal attainment.
And this has implications for everyone, from managers to individual employees.
It does. Let's start with the organization. How can managers help protect the employee's morning, even though it happens off-site?
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Managers need to acknowledge the energetic toll of disruption. So managerial action number 1 is protecting the morning fortress. The research highlights that off-hours electronic communication.
The 6:30 a.m. email.
That email that lands in your inbox at 6:30 a.m. is a massive disruption factor. That unexpected ping breaks the automated sequence. It forces the employee to allocate conscious energy to a work thought when they should be on autopilot.
So the manager might gain 5 minutes of task urgency.
But they sacrifice the employee's entire afternoon focus. They are draining the employee's potential driving force.
So implementing or enforcing a strict no email before work policy is a really valuable low-cost way to conserve organizational energy.
It's a huge return on investment.
That's a powerful business argument against the always-on culture.
Uh,
But what if the disruption is unavoidable? The sick child, the bad traffic, those things are outside the manager's control.
Right, and that leads to managerial action number 2, mitigation strategies. Since the research confirms the negative ramifications last all day, if a manager knows a routine has been severely disrupted, they should proactively intervene to restore that energy.
Pull the levers.
They need to pull the levers known to reduce depletion or restore calmness.
So how does that work in practice? What are those levers?
The sources suggest several science-backed interventions. One is encouraging strategic workplace breaks, especially micro breaks.
Okay.
Breaks are proven to help replenish cognitive resources, effectively topping up that depleted potential driving force. Another tactic is promoting self-reflection.
Self-reflection, like journaling. How does that restore energy?
Research suggests that structured self-reflection, Maybe a 5-minute check-in focusing on gratitude or reviewing small wins can help energize individuals and recenter their focus. It moves them from a state of chaotic reaction back toward an intentional state.
And the last one.
Finally, if the personal morning routine is just too fragile to rely on, managers can actively reestablish routinization at work.
So imposing structure where the personal structure failed.
Exactly. Starting the day with a predictable, low-demand team check-in, a brief communal breakfast, or a simple standard organizational sequence can help employees transition from that chaotic home morning into a structured work environment.
And that would help them regain that sense of certainty and calmness they need?
That's the goal. And for the individual employee who wants to protect their day against chaos,
What's the main takeaway for them?
the most direct employee action is creating a barrier. A barrier between their personal morning routine and the influx of work demands. Employees should avoid checking unexpected emails, Slack messages, or any work-related communication until they are physically at their desk.
Or at least until a specific routinized window in their morning has been set aside for that work intake.
Right. Don't let the job infiltrate the automation sequence. If you check email while drinking your coffee and you see something alarming, your brain immediately allocates energy to problem solving. It breaks the automation and it drains your potential force. The sequence is the safeguard.
Now let's pivot back to the research limitations. These are always the most exciting parts because they define what we still need to learn.
Absolutely. One key limitation relates to routine strength versus variety. We saw that strength matters in Study 1, but the checklist approach in Study 2A might be mixing up strength with variety.
Right.
The question remains, how do individuals with generally stronger internal structures, people who are high in conscientiousness, for example, or who have a high need for structure, how do they react to disruption?
Does their strong internal structure act as a buffer, making them less susceptible to external chaos? Or are they hit harder precisely because they rely so heavily on that external predictability?
That's the nuance we need to explore. Does their high conscientiousness mean they burn less energy coping? Or does the violation of their structured expectation cause a greater emotional and cognitive crash? We just don't know the answer yet.
A second, highly practical question deals with the balance of disruption. The research assumes routines are generally benign or positive. But what if the activity being skipped is actively harmful?
This is a critical point. If an employee's morning routine involves something clearly detrimental, say excessive social media scrolling, binge-watching news, or a high-sugar, low-nutrition breakfast,
Okay.
the benefit of skipping that harmful activity might actually outweigh the energetic costs of the disruption. If skipping a negative routine makes you slightly depleted but significantly healthier or less anxious long-term, the trade-off calculation changes completely.
So future research needs to explore the quantity of the activities being routinized, not just the fact that they are routines.
Exactly.
And finally, let's revisit that paradox of the cost of routine versus no routine.
Yes. While the supplemental tests suggested no statistically significant energetic advantage to avoiding routines when you compare it to a disrupted strong routine, that doesn't mean that being unstructured is harmless.
Why?
The evidence strongly suggests that the energy conserved by forming a routine and sticking to it is substantial, and it occurs every single day you succeed.
So the temporary risk of disruption is a worthwhile gamble for the immense daily energy savings of automation. You're betting on your ability to maintain structure most days.
Exactly. You are aiming for that high baseline of energy availability. The research does not recommend abandoning routines just because you might stumble occasionally. The energetic cost of that stumble is just similar to the baseline energetic deficit of someone who is perpetually unstructured.
So this has been a deep dive confirming that the morning routine is far more than an aspirational lifestyle choice. It is a critical component of your daily energy management system, and it's rooted in established cognitive theory.
The core takeaway is undeniable. Morning routine disruption restricts your potential driving force. It hits you with a 1-2 punch of higher cognitive depletion and reduced effective calmness.
And this depletion severely undermines your effective driving force, your ability to engage, and ultimately hinders your progress on the goals that define your success.
The stumble out of the gate ensures you're already sprinting on a half-empty tank.
But since the studies show that the sequence and timing of activities matter, that leaves us with a final provocative thought for you to reflect on, one that gives us some agency over this process.
Consider your energetic timeline. If you know certain personal routines like exercise, meditation, or preparing a healthy meal require a dedicated, fixed amount of your personal energy, try to sequence those tasks before the elements that are most prone to external work disruption.
So before checking emails or starting the commute.
Exactly. By front-loading these energy-demanding personal tasks, you are investing your cognitive resources in protecting your own physical and mental state. This makes you more robust. It allows you to absorb the subsequent unexpected chaos, the sudden email, or the traffic jam with minimal impact on the precious cognitive resources you need for high-level work goal attainment later that day. It's about building energetic defenses right into the sequence itself.